So this week's exercise is dealing with queries. I'm going to start a new map project. Again, I'm going to use the letter ANSI landscape. Save my previous changes I was working on, and I'm looking at the instructions of the exercise, and it says to use the appropriate USA feature classes to create a map showing which US cities will qualify and how much funding they will receive based on the instructions below. So, I'm talking about the U.S., so I'm thinking states and cities, so that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to go to my MGIS data. I'm going to pin my ARC catalog open, browse to my USA folder, my USA geodatabase. I'm going to bring in states, and I'm going to bring in cities. And since I know we're talking about earthquakes, I'm going to go ahead and bring in earthquakes. And so now I'm tasked with understanding what's going on. So basically there's a certain amount of money, to $1 million, that's going to be awarded to a certain list of cities that meet some criteria. So I need to start sifting through that criteria to determine which cities are going to get that money. So what I need to do is understand the criteria that I have, so I need to read the instructions. And I'm just going to read that aloud here. It says Congress has awarded FEMA $10 million to help large cities prepare for earthquakes. The cities that qualify for funding must have more than 500,000 people and be less than 50 miles from one or more earthquakes exceeding 6.0 in magnitude. The bill stipulates that the funding is to be divided among the cities in proportion to their population. Create a feature class that contains only the qualified cities and has a table field listing the amount of funding to be given to each city. So I believe I have the data that I need. I've got my states, I've got my cities, and I have my earthquakes. So I've got some criteria here. I need to find large cities that have 500,000 people. So if I look at my cities attribute table, and I scroll through the list of attributes, I see population 2007. That's probably my most recent. I'm just going to continue on and look. I've got demographics, different age groups, basic demographic information. So I'm going to look through this population field, and I'm going to select the cities that have a higher population than 500,000. So I'm going to do that by selecting by attributes. So I can pick select by attributes here, or I could go here and pick select by attributes. It doesn't matter. But I need to make sure that I'm searching in the cities table. I'm creating a new selection, and I select the field that I want to query, which is population 2007. I want it to be greater than 500,000. So I'm just typing in 500,000, and I'm going to pick OK. And I see there are 32 cities. I can see 32 cities out of 557. If I want to just see those, I can see that by switching to the selected cities only. So I know those cities have the population criteria met. The next criteria that I need to select is which cities are close to big earthquakes. So before I can answer that, I have to find out which earthquakes were big. So again, I'm going to look at the earthquake attribute table, and I see the states, how deep it was, the number of deaths, the damage, magnitude. So magnitude is what I'm basing that on. So I'm looking for 6.0 or greater earthquakes. So again, I'm going to go select by attributes. This time I'm selecting quakes that have magnitude greater than or equal to 6. So pick OK. There are 256 large earthquakes. Now my trick is to find out which of these cities is within 50 miles of these large earthquakes. So I only want to look at large cities, and I only want to look at large earthquakes. So I'm going to use a select by location, and I'm going to select features from currently selected features in cities. So that means don't look at any other cities except those that I've selected based on their population. And I'm going to select the use selected features for quakes because I only want to use these 256 earthquakes that we've determined to be large earthquakes. And I'm using a search method of within a distance of, we want to look for 50 miles. So we set this to miles, and we pick apply. And I like to use the selection, list by selection, so I see that we've narrowed that list of cities down to 6. Okay, so those are our 6 candidate cities that met both of those criterion. So what I want to do now is I'm going to switch back to my table of contents view. On my cities, I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to pick selection, create layer from selected features, and I'm going to turn off my original cities. I'm going to turn off my original earthquake. So here I've just got my 6 cities left there. I'm going to go into the properties of the 6 cities here and look at the fields table. I don't really want to see all this information, so I'm just going to clear them, and I want to see the name. I'd like to see the population, and I'm ultimately going to add a new field for funding. Now this one that says POP 2007, not everybody's going to understand what that is. So when I put that on my map, I'm going to give it an alias. So I'm actually going to call it population, just to make it easier for everyone to understand. So if I look at the attribute table now, I've just got these 2 fields. I'm going to create another field that calculates the funding that each city is going to get. So I'm going to go to add a field. So I'm going to call it funding, and the data type is going to be float, and I'm going to pick OK. And now I'm going to calculate how much each city is going to get based on their population. First thing I need to know is what is the total population of all the cities. So if I look at the statistics of the population, I see that there are 8,192,783 people in all 6 of these cities. So I'm going to copy that number. To determine the percentage of something, you need to know how much of that divided by the whole. So in this funding field, I'm going to use the field calculator, and I'm just going to put a parentheses just to kind of keep things nice and neat. Population divided by that number that we just copied, the sum of all the population. So that gets the percentage, and then I'm going to multiply that by 10 million. And that should give me their funding amount. So if I look at the statistics of this, the sum should go back to 10 million. Looks like we got an extra quarter in there, but that's okay. It's just a rounding error. I'm going to set this to look like money. So I'm going to go to the properties, and for the numeric value, I'm going to establish that to be currency, so it looks nice and neat. And I'm going to go ahead and add this table. You might not can see that there, so I'm going to bring that up here. So I'm going to use add table to layout, and so now that table is in the layout of the map. I'm going to close this and go to whole screen and kind of reposition things around a little bit. So our 6 cities don't include Alaska and Hawaii, so we can zoom our map in to exclude those. So we're just looking at the lower 48. We can get some kind of nice beige color for the U.S., some kind of symbol that'll stand out a little bit better. And we probably should label the cities, right? So we'll turn on go to the properties and go to the labels. Turn on the label. We're going to label it with name. I don't know, we can make it like a 12 font probably. Looks pretty good. And then it's just a matter of adding all the other elements. So we've done all the hard part. You can insert the north arrow, scale bars, legends, all that stuff. You should be able to do that rather handedly. Finish this map up. Be sure to include your name on it. Be sure to include the title, all the elements that are listed there specifically: title, state boundaries, qualified cities with city names labeled, scale bar, north arrow, and a table showing how much the funding is. So just go through the instructions, make sure you hit all those bullet points, and then export this map to a PDF and submit it with your exercise for this week. If you have any questions, give me a call. Thanks.